Welcome back to my channel today. We are learning about Operation NorthWoods. In 1962, top officials in the U.S. military proposed a horrifying plan. Fake terrorist attacks on American soil, bombings, hijackings, even staging deaths, all blamed on Cuba. The plan? To manipulate public opinion and launch a war. This wasn't a movie. This was real. And it almost happened. This is the chilling story of Operation NorthWoods, when the U.S. government plotted to deceive its own people. The early 1960s were the most dangerous years of the Cold War. The U.S. and the Soviet Union were on the brink of nuclear war. After Fidel Castro took power in Cuba and aligned with the Soviets, the U.S. government panicked. Cuba was just 90 miles from Florida, and it had become a communist stronghold. The CIA's attempt to overthrow Castro in the Bay of Pigs invasion had already failed disastrously in 1961, so the Pentagon came up with something darker. In 1962, the U.S. Department of Defense and the Joint Chiefs of Staff drafted Operation NorthWoods, a top-secret plan to fabricate acts of terrorism on U.S. soil and blame them on Cuba. We could blow up a U.S. ship in Guantanamo Bay and blame Cuba. We could develop a communist Cuban terror campaign in the Miami area. We could sink a boatload of Cuban refugees. The idea was simple and chilling. Stage false flag operations to justify a full-scale war with Cuba. Operation NorthWoods proposed hijacking U.S. commercial airliners, for real or staged, and making it look like Cuban agents were responsible. One idea was to swap a real passenger plane with a drone, explode it midair, and claim all civilians had died. Another proposal involved faking casualties, holding staged funerals, and pushing it all through the American media to stir public outrage and demand retaliation. They even planned fake attacks in Washington, D.C. and Miami, including bombings and sniper fire, supposedly carried out by Cuban terrorists. Operation NorthWoods wasn't the work of a rogue agent. It was approved by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest-ranking military officials in the United States. The plan was then sent to Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, and from there, it reached the desk of President John F. Kennedy. But JFK was horrified. He rejected the proposal, and just months later, he removed General Lemnitzer as chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Operation NorthWoods was buried. For decades, Operation NorthWoods remained a secret, buried in the National Archives. It wasn't until 1997, over 30 years later, that the documents were declassified by the Assassination Records Review Board, created after the 1991 film JFK stirred public demand for transparency. Journalists and historians were stunned. Operation NorthWoods is a case study in how powerful institutions can cross ethical lines in the name of national security. It raises questions that still echo today. What do we really know about the events that justify war? How often has fear been manufactured to manipulate the public? And if this was possible in 1962, what else might have been planned or done in our name? Operation NorthWoods was never carried out, but the fact that it was ever proposed, approved, and almost put into action should never be forgotten. History isn't just what happened, it's also what almost happened. If you found this story chilling and important, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it. More people should know what their government is capable of, even when it chooses not to act.